Hey everybody, welcome. So if I was going to bet, I would say the first time you did a pip install was probably within the first hour of your first day as a Python programmer. But if you've ever wondered how to deploy your own libraries to the Python package installer, that is what we are going to cover today. So let's get started. So most people I know refer to the Python package installer as pip because you do a pip install. It's actually called PyPI. It's PYPI for Python package installer. Now this is important because as part of the process, you need to create an account at pypi.org. So the overall process for creating and deploying a package is you need to have an account at pypi.org. You need to create a new Python project using the proper directory instruction structure. Then you need to create a setup file, install a couple of Python libraries that we're going to go through, and then compile it and submit it. So let's get started. First thing we're going to do is we are going to create our account at pypi.org. Now this has multiple steps also. So we're going to create our account, then we're going to enable two-factor authentication, mostly because it's required. We're going to create an API key, and then there's a file we create called the PyPI-RC file that's in your home directory that's used every time you go to log in. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my Google Chrome and I'm going to go over to pypi.org. Okay, now up here there is a button called register. You need to just click on the register button and create your account with your name, your email address, select a username and a password, the normal confirm your password and prove you're not a robot. Once you do that, you're going to get an email to verify that your email address is valid, and then you're pretty much good to go. So what I'm going to do now, though, is I'm going to log in to my account on PyPI, and what I need to do next is I need to go to account settings. And under account settings, down at the bottom, there under two-factor authentication, there is API tokens. And what you need to do is add an API token. And so what I'm going to do here is click on add an API token. You give it a name, and then you define what the scope is going to be. So in this case, it's going to be all projects, and then I'm going to give it a token name. We'll just call it new token. And then I hit create token. And what I'm going to do, because I just displayed it on video, I'm going to hit remove token. Okay, so now that we have a token, we need to create a file in our home directory that provides the authentication details that Twine uses every time we want to push our library up into PyPI. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my home directory by just doing a cd. Now the name of that file, I'm going to vi it. It's vi.pypirc. And it's going to come up, and I'm going to blur this out since this is actually my authentication token. You need to create it this way. Now you can pretty much cut and paste this from an example that is on pypi.org, but what you're doing is you're creating username equal underscore underscore token, and then password equal, and then you're pasting in that token that we got in the previous step. So once I save this, oops, I need to save it properly. Once I save this, then we are ready to upload our project. Once we've done this, we can get started working on our project. So I'm going to go back to PyCharm, and I'm going to open the project that I'm going to start with. In this case, I've got a very simple project that I want to deploy as a library. So this is something, it's a piece of code that I decided to make a library out of it, and now I am going to submit it, and we're going to give it the name Kinetic Auth. This is the simple project that I did to create and test the library. And so now what I want to do is I want to create another project that I'm going to use to deploy the library. So first thing I'm going to do is File, New Project, and I'm going to create this as a pure Python project. So I am going to call this Kinetic Auth Library. Okay, and I'm going to create a new virtual environment. I'm just going to go through the process just to create a very simple Python project. So I'm going to create it, and I'm going to create it in a new window. So unlike your normal Python project where you start adding files underneath the root, the first thing we need to do is we need to create a subdirectory that is the name of our library. So I'm going to go File, New Directory, and I'm going to call it Kinetic auth. Now inside this directory, I am going to create a new file, and this is going to be underscore underscore init underscore underscore .py. This is the main file that is going to be deployed as your library. So the main class library that I want to reference is what I'm going to paste in here. So I'm going to go back to my other project, and this is my kinetic auth class. So I'm just going to copy it, bring it back. Now you see here that I have some imports. Now, and in this case, I actually only have one import. And when I get to the setup file, I'll talk about anything else that you need to import. So I want to import from a file called keys.py. I want to import kinetic keys. Now, when I actually developed this library, it was not a separate file, but I want to demonstrate to you something that's really important here. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to create a new file, and we're going to call it keys.py. Now, when I want to reference this class, I need to do it a different way because we're in a library. So I'm going to go back over here to my project, and I'm going to go to keys, and I am going to paste that in. In my underscore underscore init py, when I reference this, I need to reference it as .keys. Okay, now if I don't reference it as .keys, when the package gets installed, it's not going to know the relative paths of where the other file is. So this is really the only change to the code I need to make. So I'm going to go and I'm going to do a save all. So now I've got my two files. I've got my init.py and my keys.py. Well, now the next thing I need to do is underneath this application, I need to create setup.py. So I'm going to go new file, and this is called setup.py. And this is what we're actually going to run in order to build the library. So I need to actually have a setup file. So I'm going to go, I have one over here in my notes, and I'm going to copy this over and we'll talk through it. Now, this is a very simple setup file. I will post a link to it in the description. It's a very simple, easy concept here. So first thing is from setup tools, we're importing setup and find packages. We're importing the codecs, and we're installing the operating system. So I consider most of these lines to be required, so I just leave them. So we have a version number, and when you do the installation, this is critical. A short description and a long description. The long description and the short description will both end up on PyPI.org when your package is posted. We have a name for the package. It needs to be kinetic auth. And then we have a version, authors, the description, the long description, and then the only other things down here is install. Now, if I have some packages that need to be installed, so if I have some package dependencies, if I'm importing something, like if maybe I'm importing one of my other packages, or I'm importing something that I use in my library, it needs to be here in this list of requirements. So because I don't have any, I'm just going to comment it out, and I'm going to do a save all, because we're pretty close to being ready to go. So now what I need to do is I need to go to my terminal, and I need to install a couple things. So I'm going to pip install setup tools and wheel. Okay, I already had them installed, so they're already there. Okay, then the next thing I need to do is do a pip install of twine. Okay, so now I have twine installed. Okay, so it's Python 3, setup.py, sdist, and bdist wheel. And so when I hit enter, it is going to throw me an error because I do not have a readme.md. So the readme.md, I need to create that underneath file, readme.md. And I'm going to try this compile again. Okay, now we've compiled it. Now, as soon as we've compiled it, you see that we now have two files in our dist directory. So it's twine upload dist.star, and then I like to use the minus minus verbose at the end because that will. So now the next step that we want to do is we want to do a twine upload. So this is twine upload and then dist, which is the directory, and then star, meaning we want to push everything up. And then we're going to do a minus minus verbose. And I like to do that because I like to see what's going on if something doesn't work. Okay, so it looks like we have pushed up our package called kinetic auth. Okay, so that's really all there is to it. So what we've done is we have created a new library, pushed it up to PIP or PyPI, and now it is ready to be installed. So the next thing I would normally do is create a new project and then pip install my library just to make sure everything works. And then if not, create the next version and push it up. All you need to do to create the next version is create a new version number and compile and submit it again. So if you like this video, do me a favor, hit like and subscribe. It helps out the channel, and I will see you next time.